Pride and Prejudice, chapter 4, fourth video. Some review. I want to answer all of the questions. Just if you have problems, please let me know, and then I'll answer the questions again, because I realize sometimes I take a lot of time in this review, but I really think the review is important for you to, practice your memory, practice your imagination, and practice your speaking. So my question is, what are the differences between Mr. Darcy's and Mr. Bingley's personalities? Right? My next question is, how can we compare the way Mr. Bingley saw the estate he was about to rent and the way he behaved at the ball there? Okay, so let's continue. The manner in which they spoke of Meryton assembly was sufficiently characteristic. Characteristic of what? Characteristic of their personalities. Bingley had never met with pleasanter people. I have to tell you, that there are many things that for our modern ears are quite strange in Jane Austen. One of them would be £100,000, instead of £100,000. Another one is the way long adjectives are used in the comparative form by using ER, Keep in mind, what is the rule nowadays? Or the tendency, if you prefer. Long adjectives, you're going to use more, right? More beautiful than, more interesting than, more expensive than. Short adjectives, you're going to use ER. Bigger than, taller than, nicer than. Fair enough. 3-syllable or more adjectives, 1-syllable adjective. What about 2-syllable adjectives? 2-syllable adjectives, the tendency is, if the 2-syllable adjective ends in Y, then you are going to use er. Of course, keeping in mind that when you have the Y, you drop the Y and add IER, right? Funny, funnier, right? Good. If the adjective doesn't end in Y, then the tendency is to use more. For example, more pleasant, instead of pleasanter, right? There was one, I don't know if you remember, handsomer. That is quite strange for us to say. Nowadays it would be much more common to say more handsome, okay? Keep that in mind, okay? It's important because I would prefer that you used more handsome, more pleasant, okay? So when it comes to adjectives, don't forget it. Okay. Bingley had never met with pleasanter people or prettier girls in his life. Everybody had been most kind and attentive to him. There had been no formality, no stiffness. He had soon felt acquainted with all the room. And as to Miss Bennet, he could not conceive an angel more beautiful. Okay? Everybody was attentive of him or to him. He was impressed by everybody. Everybody liked him. Darcy, on the contrary, had seen a collection of people in whom there was little beauty and no fashion, for none of whom he had felt the smallest interest, and from none received either attention or pleasure. He didn't receive attention or pleasure from anybody. Not only because from the second part of the party on, people just got away from him, alright? He imposed that. Remember, he would just talk to people from his party, his group. Miss Bennet he acknowledged to be pretty, but she smiled too much. Mrs. Hurst and her sister Remember, Mrs. Hurst is the oldest Bingley sister, right? And her sister is Miss Bingley because she's not married. Mrs. Hurst and her sister allowed it to be so, but still they admired and liked her. I don't know if I put in our group in our list. I didn't, but I think in a previous list we saw that allow is not just give permission, right? And this is the case here, not give permission. So Mrs. Hurst and her sister allowed it to be so. You know, they thought Miss Bennet smiled too much, you know. But still, they admired her and liked her, and pronounced her to be a sweet girl, and one whom they should not object to know more of. Miss Bennet was therefore established as a sweet girl, and their brother felt authorized by such commendation to think of her as he chose. This I want you to think about. So he felt authorized by such commendation to think of her as he chose. My question here, and we can't have an answer for that just yet, but remember, our exercise is to try to project the future of the story. So my question is, what kind of influence do the sisters have on him? You know, he felt authorized. It's a matter of speech, you know. It means that, oh, my sisters like her, so, oh, that's nice. Or, what if they didn't like her? Do you think Mr. Bingley would have changed his opinion regarding Jane? That's a question, of course, we'll get to know as the chapters go on, right? Let me see if I have any question. No, I don't. In the beginning of chapter 5, I will have some review questions.